the more time you spend up front thinking about the end picture, the less you're going to spend on development once you start coding.
Okay.
And that's probably the biggest mistake people make, is they spend too little time starting to code right away, hiring a programmer, and get started without really thinking it through.
For people that are listening or watching that have not yet gone into the world of software development, but are interested in it, you've got a tremendous amount of experience in it over the years. And I'd love to hear your insights on if you didn't have anything but an idea right now, what would you do to get started in software?
That's a great question. So it all comes with experience. Once you understand the full life cycle of software development, you're able to do an MVP, a minimum viable product, pretty much within 90 to 120 days on any new product or service you want to roll out. Now, if you don't have that experience, I know people, that have taken a year and a half or two, and they still don't have a product. They're still struggling, and they think they can hire a couple of Upworkers and have them piece together a solution on WordPress. Well, that's not a scalable SaaS solution. So if I had to do it all over again and start completely from scratch, and I would probably go to somebody with an audience that doesn't have a SaaS solution yet, doesn't have a recurring product yet, and I would approach them and say, hey, let's partner.
Okay.
I'm going to build a team that will create this software solution, and you're going to take one-time revenues and turn that into a recurring model with your audience, which gets a much higher valuation than single process. I mean, you've done it with multiple of your businesses. Mm-hmm. And then it always starts with the specifications and the design. The more time you spend up front thinking about the end picture, the less you're going to spend on development once you start coding.
Okay.
And that's probably the biggest mistake people make, is they spend too little time starting to code right away, hiring a programmer, and get started without really thinking it through.
So tell me this, because a lot of people do advocate, and I've seen courses on how to make a software product and things like that do advocate going out to an Upwork or some Rent-A-Coder or whatever. What's the downside to that? Like, why do you, because you mentioned it as a mistake, why is that a mistake?
Well, if you go too quick and if you don't know what your end picture is, the first person you should really hire, if you have never done product development, and again, this can be an Upworker on a part-time basis for a couple hours here and there, the first person you need is a really good product manager that understands asking all the right questions to come up with the high-level specifications and then actual user stories.
And is that different from a project manager?
Yes. So a product manager is visionary and makes sure you deliver these great features and is an advocate of the customer.
Okay.
Versus the project manager then comes in once you have defined all of that, your vision and what do you want to create. The project manager is the one that takes the specifications and turns it into an actual product.
Okay.
But they're more dealing with developers and defects and processes. So that's internal stuff and not visionary.
Okay.
And very few, so either you have a visionary or you have a transactional project manager that's task-based. over the years, I have found very, very few of my team members in that role that understand both. A couple months ago, I hired a great product/project manager that understands both. She's terrific. She has worked in fintech with products with 2 million users. And so if your starting point is the product manager, then get a few hours and get some user stories, do some user interviews. And then once you have the specifications, then you can move to a project manager.
Okay. Now,
and
so
then
now,
you know.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
and then you know, Roland, then you know what to build, and then you know how to scope it, what kind of talent do you need, and then you can go on Upwork and hire front-end and back-end developers. Now, there's something called full-stack developers that can do both, front-end and back-end.
And what do you prefer?
In my experience, I have seen the best success hiring really, really good back-end developers and really, really good front-end developers and dividing it into two pieces.
What is the difference? Is one like UI, user interface type stuff, and one is the processing on the behind the scenes?
Right. So front end is what you can see on the web or on a mobile app, what is touchable, anything you interact with in the user interface. And then the back end is the part that interacts with the database. And if you build that right, it can be very, very scalable if you put it on the right infrastructure. Or if you build it wrong, you might have long load times. And if you put on a lot of users, you might have a problem scaling the business. And the part I left out is the UI design part, which you just addressed. Mm-hmm. That typically comes before you start coding. If you have a really, really good designer, and a few of the best designers I've ever worked with, I found on Upwork. So there's great talent.
Okay.
And then they typically put it in a mock-up application like Zeppelin, where you can see how it looks and already click on a few things. And then once you're happy with that, then it moves into development.
Okay. So I've heard product manager, project manager, UI designer, front-end developer, back-end developer. Is that kind of the team?
Right, but then you also need a QA tester on top of it, because you don't want developers do the testing. And if you got all those pieces working, and then you need a really good project management software, and Jira is the leader in that space, and then you can track everything accordingly, and then you're able to do like an agile process where you move in 2-week sprints, and you don't want to get too involved. Let your project manager run with it. And that's really the taking, a step back as the entrepreneur or business owner, and letting the team just develop, and then looking at the end result.